Hello and welcome to today's EcoCast event, Upleveling Your Security and Networking Capabilities. This EcoCast is produced by Actual Tech Media, and on today's event, you'll hear from experts at Open Systems, Rapid7, Nova4, and NetBrain. We've got an awesome event lined up for you today. Thank you so much for joining us from across the United States and around the world. On today's EcoCast, there's just a few things that you should know. We at Actual Tech Media created the EcoCast and MegaCast events, and we want these events to be educational. We're former IT professionals or IT professionals still today ourselves, and we want you to solve your technology challenges by attending this event. To help you learn about the latest and greatest innovative technology, we've got some of the coolest solutions lined up for the EcoCast. So again, thank you so much for joining us. There are a few things you should know. We have some awesome prizes. I'll talk about those in just a moment. There is the questions box. It's on the left-hand side of your audience console. I can draw your attention to it by doing that. And of course, we appreciate all the good morning messages from everyone coming in, but we also want your technical questions related to networking and security in enterprise IT. We'll be doing dedicated Q&A sessions with each of today's presenters. And so I need your questions, and I'm going to pose the toughest questions, the best questions that come in to the presenters. So keep those good questions coming. We also want this to be a social event, so we encourage you to tweet about the event. You can do that directly from the console there at the bottom of the screen by using the Twitter icon, and today's hashtag will be automatically appended. I'll be monitoring Twitter throughout the event, trying to do some social myself as well during the event. So hope to see you over there using the hashtag. And then also we have a number of handouts there in the handouts tab. We have links and PDF assets, so make sure that you check those out during the presentation. The prizes on today's EcoCast will be 3 Amazon $500 gift cards. I'll be announcing the winners of each of those throughout the event verbally and also in the questions box. Winners must be live in attendance to qualify, and all prize winners must be able to submit an IRS Form W-9 to Actual Tech Media. We'll reach out to you after the event to deliver your prize. Full prize terms and conditions can be found there in the handouts tab. Now, Actual Tech Media has been donating to Direct Relief $500 for every event that we run, like this one, until COVID-19 is beat. Direct Relief supports frontline healthcare workers with critical medical supplies. So thank you for supporting today's event, because indirectly you are supporting Direct Relief. We've also been supporting the Diane Fossey Gorilla Fund and One Tree Planted charities in partnership with the Gorilla Guide Book Club. You can go to gorilla.guide to download some of the coolest technology books in the industry. These are full-length ebooks. You can download them all for free. It's a really excellent educational resource. As I said, the hashtag for today's event is ATM EcoCast over on Twitter. You can follow Actual Tech Media. We are at Actual Tech Media, and feel free to follow me as well, David M. Davis. You can subscribe to all the social media channels from Actual Tech Media. They're on the top right-hand side of your console: YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, and also our 10 on Tech podcast is over in the iTunes store. We post all of our latest and greatest content on LinkedIn. Now, before I introduce you to our first expert presenter here in just a few moments, I want to do a little bit of stage setting when it comes to the state of enterprise technology and security in the world today, and also to ask you a few poll questions to get your feedback on what's going on out there in the world of technology. I mean, you see stats like this one on your screen, all the time on the internet, on the evening news, scary stats about ransomware. Cybercrime damages are expected to hit $6 trillion annually by 2021. These costs continue to rise. And it's not just for the small businesses that you might hear about or the large businesses you might hear about in the news. It's for, small organizations as well. Even, our personal computers, in many cases. A friend of mine had his baby pictures held for ransom. My local fire department, I saw in the news, all the fire department servers were being held for ransom. it's a scary time for anyone out there who's responsible for protecting the network and responsible for IT security, at your company. So we've got a tough job. I mean, just to kind of set the big picture here for what our role in IT is, we have to keep our company's data secure, protected per some sort of service level agreement, a recovery time objective, recovery point objective. You might have something like that with your company or with the business unit, but we're also challenged to do it at the lowest possible cost, and that's not always hard to do. That data has to be recoverable, and hopefully we're confident that we can do those things because our job really depends on it and our company's future depends on it. We have to make sure that our user accounts don't get compromised because that could then compromise our data. We need to be continually educating our users on security best practices because they're really the frontline defense, for our company. No longer is it enough just to secure the administrator account. Really every user needs to be helping to do their part to protect their company's data. We have to ensure that the applications and associated data are secure and ensure that our data is quickly recoverable if lost. Protect the network with strong security, both inside the perimeter and outside. No longer is it enough to have, the egg model of security where you have the strong outer shell and the soft gooey center. We need to have like the jawbreaker security where we have strong security really across the board. And then, of course, guarantee fast recovery in the event of any sort of disaster, whether or not it's a natural disaster or a human disaster, accidentally delete data, or if we have some sort of ransomware event and we have to do a mass recovery. And then when it comes to the network, we have to ensure that the network, of course, is secure, but also highly performant. We have to have the applications up and running at all times, low latency. Our end users have just come to expect that of the network. They should perform just as well as their high-speed internet connection at their home or on their phone or mobile device, no matter what it is. It always has to be reliable and available, just always, 24/7. There's no more downtime anymore. So IT organizations, have to guarantee that the applications perform, the network is always up and reliable, issues are rapidly solved should they occur, and even more important, that we can prevent downtime before it happens. And to me, automation is key in that area, but automation has got to be easy to implement because we in IT, we're not, most of us aren't coders. We don't have time to really get into that. We need to automate things, but by golly, it's got to be easy. And so if any of this resonates with you, I think that you are on the right event today. You're in the right place. We've got some really cool solutions you'll be learning about today. Know4 with their awesome industry-leading security awareness solution, Rapid7 with their managed security solutions, open systems, again, some really cool security solutions, and NetBrain will be talking to us about network automation and all that they're doing in that area. So it's a good variety of solutions across the board, some really innovative stuff. Before I introduce you to our first presenter, I want to ask you out there in the audience a couple of poll questions. The first one being, with the impact of COVID on businesses of all sizes, where do you see your security budgeting going in 2020 and beyond? I mean, 2020 is almost over here. Is your budget going up? Is it staying the same? Is it decreasing? With everyone working from home, that's really kind of thrown a wrench into many of our security plans. That wasn't always something that I think most of us on IT envisioned. Maybe work from home for some sort of business continuity, but most companies didn't envision their entire workforce working from home. So some of us I know have gotten more budget to do that. Some of us not so much because companies are dealing with this changing environment. So thank you everyone who responded to that poll. Let me share the results of that one with you. And it looks like good news. I appreciate that. I always like good news. 52% of you said that your security budgets are increasing in 2020 and beyond. 40% said stay the same, and only 6% said your budgets are decreasing. So that's really great to hear. Good news all around. And then one more poll question. That is, what's your time frame for adding new or updating existing security solutions? I think roughly 94% of you said your budget's staying the same or increasing. So, kind of what's your plan for implementing new solutions related to security and networking at your company? Give you a few seconds to answer that one. We'll have a few more poll questions throughout the event. And of course, we always appreciate your participation in those. We want to keep the audience involved. Our expert presenters want to hear from you and, what you would like in response from them to, keep this education flowing in regards to the latest technology that you're learning about on the event today. So with that, thank you everyone who responded to the poll. It's now time to kick off today's Security and Networking EcoCast. I'm excited to introduce our first presenter, that is James McQuiggan, Security Awareness Advocate at KnowBe4. James, are you there?
I am here. Thank you, David.
Thanks for being on, James. Take it away.
Great. Thank you very much, David. Really excited to be here presenting to all of you that are attending today as I talk about security awareness, and we talk a little more about ransomware. So essentially, when it comes to ransomware, it just doesn't end with the ransomware. It's unfortunately only just the beginning. So as I go through the presentation and I talk over the next 20 minutes to you all, just keep in mind about why ransomware has become successful. I'm going to dive into some of the reasons why as we go along, but just to kind of give you something to think about as we go through, because ransomware is one of the leading attack vectors still being used for cyber criminals to make money these days and be extremely profitable. As David said, my name is James McQuiggan. I'm a security awareness advocate at KnowBe4. Essentially, my job is to go around and promote everybody to be more aware of cybersecurity, whether you're in IT, finance, HR, wherever, anybody that wants to listen, I'm ready to talk. So real quick, if you haven't heard about KnowBe4, essentially, we are the world's largest integrated security awareness training, new school security awareness training, and simulated phishing platform. We're based out of Tampa. We're also a global organization all around the world in different countries. But essentially, we want to make sure that we enable your employees to make smarter security decisions every day, because we always want to make sure that we do make those smart decisions, and security is certainly one of them. All right, running down real quick for the next little bit, kind of a breakdown of what I'm going to be talking about. The ransomware primer, I think a lot of us already are familiar with what ransomware is. I'm just going to add some additional information you may or may not be aware of, and then talk about what happens if you do get hit with ransomware, what those steps look like afterward, how you can prevent ransomware, and then just review some final thoughts. So looking at our ransomware primer. So there's a new normal in ransomware. If you haven't heard already, late in 2019, Maze and Doppelpaymer, Revel stepped up the game. They no longer were going in and just hitting everybody with the lack of availability of your files. They were going in and now stealing your data. So not only were they ransoming your data itself, but ransoming the extortion capability of posting it online for everybody to see. And if part of the data that was stolen dealt with personal identifiable information or was even part of your intellectual property, these were things that were going to make people pony up the money and pay. Even if you were able to recover the files, you're still looking at essentially a data breach here. 55% of small businesses are the ones being impacted. We're looking at this as ransomware 2.0. And unfortunately, pretty well almost every 14 seconds, there's a different company that's getting hit with ransomware. Just to look at some of the numbers real quick, you've essentially got, about $144,000 worth of $144,000 worth of is the average amount of what gets hit with your when you get hit with a ransom. It's kind of that average amount. When you're, let's see, there we go. Your reports this year are already up about 715% with regards to ransomware. If you do get hit with it, you're looking at about a $760,000 line item in your budget to be able to recover. That includes downtime, whether you've got to hire a third-party company, whether you've had to pay out that average of $140,000. There's a lot of different costs that get associated with it. And of course, your reputation and certainly loss of revenue. 75% of the companies that were infected were running up-to-date endpoint protection. So not a lot of the time people think, oh, we got anti-malware, we should be fine. The malware, the ransomware that's being used is a lot of the time undetectable. And that 34% of the businesses that got hit were taking over a week to get back their data. A lot of the time, those ransomware notices that you get, they're only giving you about 3 days, 72 hours to pay them before they either delete the decryption key. So, if it's taking you a week to recover and it's not working, then you start running into issues where you're going to be you'll have lost all your data with no hope of being able to get it back. So a lot of quick decisions have to be made within those first few hours of when the ransomware hits. Essentially, ransomware is a data breach. Before it used to be where they made the data unavailable. Now they're leaking it. When it comes to intellectual property, there's public shaming going on. I read today that there was a ransomware group where they were reaching out to the children of the owner of the company that they hit with ransomware and harassing the teenage daughter, because they, through using probably open source intelligence or other means, discovered her phone number and then were texting her. So public shaming is going on. It's a lot more, they're being a lot more visceral with their attacks out there. Ransomware as a service. This, we've got everything as a service that's out there. Well, now there's even the ransomware service. You can go out and you end up splitting the profits with the company that you end up hiring, whether it's Dot or Satan. Raspberry has different tiers as well, different prices, different points that you're going to end up splitting the profits with them. So there's a lot of different capabilities for the ransomware out there. They've stepped up the game. And now if you do end up getting hit with ransomware, what do you need to do? And essentially, once you discover you've got a system infected or multiple systems, you want to get them disconnected. I wouldn't say powered off, but you want to get them disconnected from the network. So either A, they can't continue to spread the ransomware and infect other systems. Start looking at determining the scope. What's it going to take now for you to recover? Is this going to be something where you're going to have to pay? Is this going to be something where you're going to recover from your backups? Is it going to be something where you get a third party in? You're going to have to start looking at what's going to be involved. A lot of that comes down to your incident response plans. If you have those detailed and documented, basically it's pulling off the incident response playbook, pulling up the ransomware and following through it. Also, you've got to look at what the strain is. Sometimes they tell you, the note they end up leaving behind, it tells you what the strain is, who's the cyber criminal group that's out there. Today it was discovered, if you may have heard, that the ransomware caused the death of a woman in Germany. It was discovered today and reported this morning that Doppelpaymer was the one behind it, and they've been extremely active in the last year. And so, these groups are active. They're targeting all different industries and varying amounts of ransom as well, whether they're making your data unavailable or they're going to be making you pay for, getting your data back. So now we start looking at, what are our different responses within that scope? Are we restoring from a recent backup? Are we going to decrypt files using a third-party decryptor? Are we going to do nothing? In other words, lose the data or negotiate and pay the ransom? Pretty well, those are your majority of your choices that you have. You may end up doing one or all, or you may be doing two or three. It just depends on what your infrastructure is capable of supporting and what you can recover from. So if you're going to recover from backup, essentially, you're looking at the time involved to recover. How long is that going to take? Sometimes, with servers, depending on how many servers you have and how many have been impacted, it'll take several days to get those systems fully up and running. The hospital that was in Germany, their servers that were impacted, there were about 30 of them. They're still not fully recovered from all that. And that was back on September 10th. So we're now pretty well at week number 2 for them. So when it comes to doing your backups, it's great that you do your backups and you can restore from them. It's important to understand the time frame that it's going to take to get those data files back up. Sometimes if you're using cloud providers and doing those, and it gets hit with ransomware, it's easy enough to do or restore, with versioning back on those individual systems. But dealing with your servers and third-party companies, you have to take into consideration how much time it's going to take to recover from that. A lot of that can be discovered from tabletop exercises, having discussions internally, working with your third-party folks as well with regards to those backups. Shadow copies work well, but a lot of the times we've been seeing the cyber criminals are getting into your system. They're not in there for a short amount of time. They could be in there for days, weeks, without you being aware of it. And a lot of the time before they launch that ransomware attack, they are deleting those shadow copies. So even those don't become available. The system restore points, they all get deleted as they are leaving the system and starting the encryption process. Verifying the backups. So we've already talked about, it's great. You've got the backups, but you want to make sure you verify them. Time and time again, I've seen it where organizations say, yep, we've got backups. We're all the way good through 18 months ago or however long. Then they start to do a restore after a ransomware attack and discover that 6 months prior, the files were starting to get corrupted. So data integrity is extremely important as well, being able to assess those systems and make sure that you can recover properly. Because in the event that you do get hit with ransomware, you're most likely going to end up having to wipe the machines anyway once you do that recovery. So decrypt it yourself. That's an option. There are organizations, they're nonprofit groups, where they take the ransomware and they basically reverse engineer it, trying to determine the strain and the decryption keys. And a lot of the time you can upload a file that has been encrypted by the ransomware. You can upload it to them and they can give you feedback if it's something that they can decrypt. A lot of the time they can't, but they have been able to go through and determine that, that's a file that we can decrypt. It's something we've got the key for. A lot of the older ones from previous years are ones that they can do, but some of the bigger ones that are out there, like what Maze is using, Doppelpaymer, Revil, those ransomware encryption protocols aren't ones that they're able to decrypt or haven't been able to decrypt because of the strength that's involved. But it's at least worth a shot very quickly to go through and check. It's not 100% guarantee. Usually what they end up doing is giving you the key so you can decrypt it, and then you go through the process of actually decrypting the data files on your systems. The other question then becomes whether you deal or no deal. And with that, we're referring to, do you contact the cyber criminals and try to, negotiate a lower rate? It has been known before that a lot of the times the cyber criminals, they just want to get paid. They want to make sure that, they're going to get something out of the work and effort that they've done, and reaching out to them. There's been some of them that have had fantastic helplines. You reach out to them and you get a response very quickly, or it's through a chat window. So reaching out to them, try to get the price lower is one way to do it, which in that case, then you end up having to pay them. And if you do end up having to pay them, they give you all the instructions. Now, some of the groups, they'll give you a website that you have to go visit. You have to download Tor, the Onion Router browser, which is an anonymous style browser. It doesn't track your movements or any of that information. So you have to download that, install it, visit their website that they give you, and they'll give you additional instructions after that. They also give you a time frame. Like I said, usually it's about 72 hours that you get where you've got to be able to pay. And then you've got to get the Bitcoin wallet. You've got to get money changed over to Bitcoin. And that process takes a couple days. So if you're creating that process or the procedures for in the event you get hit with a ransomware. Either you're going to need the organization or somebody in the organization to have a Bitcoin wallet. So in the event that happens, you can make those decisions quickly and pay. A lot of the time when you get on when you get on the communication with the cyber criminals, they understand you've got to go through, and it takes a couple of days to get that Bitcoin wallet, and they may extend it a little more. But their goal is to get money from the organization. So they're not going to make a lot of time extra available. They're going to want to get paid as quickly as possible. So when you look at those different decisions, whether you restore from backup, you look at a decryption key, you look at paying them, essentially what ends up having to happen, and finally what ends up happening, you've got to get rid of the ransomware on your systems, and you've also want to make sure that there isn't any other malware left behind on those systems. And a lot of the times you have to go through, wipe the systems, and then that's when you reload from your backups. Or if you get the decryption key through that nonprofit organization, or you get it from the cyber criminals, once you get your data decrypted, you want to back that up and then wipe the systems and then restore that backup. You never know what's been left behind. Even though you get the decryption key and you think, okay, we're fine, a lot of the time they will still have remnants of malware on there, and they will use that again and hit you with ransomware. It's been known to happen before. And, at the beginning, the statistic I gave with regards, you had 75% of them running up-to-date anti-malware, and they still got hit because that anti-malware can't exactly detect a lot of the new strains that are out there. Until they're detectable, and the anti-malware companies load those patterns into it, you're still susceptible to those different type of attacks. So only you can prevent ransomware, kind of taking off from only you can prevent forest fires, which is the unfortunate events going on the West Coast. But thinking about ransomware, what are some of the best practices and tips? Train your users. Make sure that they know how to be able to spot the ransomware, the backups, making sure that you've got the 3-2-1 rule. You've got 3 backups, you've got 2 on site, you got 1 off site. You test them and you go through that to make sure that they're working. Segmenting the network. You want to make it harder for the cyber criminals if they do gain access in through a phishing email or a unconfigured or unpatched server, which 70 to 90% of the time is due to phishing or those misconfigured or external devices. If they get into your network, you want to make sure you've got your critical assets, things that are extremely important to your organization, whether it's database systems or intellectual property files. You have those isolated and put into parts of your network that they're not as easy to get to with just a username and password. There's some sort of multi-factor authentication or multiple firewalls that they've got to get through. Utilizing principal of least privilege. So when you have that intellectual property, when you have that intellectual property or other sensitive data, that you are restricting it to only the people that necessarily need it. That, if it's your research and development team and they're working on that latest project, that, they are the only ones that have access to it. I see this a lot of times. So there's the internet facing remote desktop protocol. You want to make sure that that's not open, because a lot of the times some of these ransomware groups are getting in through Citrix or RDP, and they are easily able to discover it. One of my other things that I do in life is I'm a college professor. And the other night in class, I took the students through a demonstration with Shodan. And if you've ever been on Shodan, where it's basically the Google of all internet connected devices, we did a search for all the open ports. And within the US, we found, I think it was 1.6 million devices connected to the internet directly connected with RDP. That's just a smorgasbord for the bad guys to be able to go ahead and gain access. Keeping up with patches, some organizations can do it a lot quicker than others. Some industries, it takes a little bit more because availability is key, like in healthcare, industrial control systems, manufacturing, energy companies. We know that patching those systems isn't something that they can do every single month. but certainly your corporate systems, anything that's internet facing, you always want to make sure that you're keeping up to date with those patches to avoid the bad guys getting in. Now you've got to go be able to talk to the C-suite, because either you're going to be adding more technology or adding more security awareness training programs, but you need to make sure that when you talk to the C-suite or CISOs, a data breach inside of an organization becomes a board issue. It's something that's going to get the CEO out of bed early in the morning when it's discovered, because it's an impact to the bottom line, the revenue, your reputation, whatever your brand is. And it's important that they understand the risks relating to ransomware as well, and being able to have those discussions on a regular basis. A lot of the time, people come down to the notion that, okay, well, we'll use compliance, whether it's HIPAA or whether it's SOX, that's going to keep us secure. And a lot of the time, compliance is, checkbox security is what we call it. You might be implementing so many programs, but the purpose behind it with regards to the security isn't going to be there. A lot of the time it's just satisfying a checkbox, but the culture itself of security isn't there. What it comes down to, and where we come from with KnowBe4, is the people that work in your organization, they are a critical layer when it comes to your cybersecurity programs. Time and time again, I hear people talk about, oh yeah, the humans are the weakest link. I flip that on its head and I say, they're your strongest asset. They have the ability to be able to support you. They're just not fully aware of what's involved and what's going on. If they're made to be a part of the security program, we all dread when that 30-minute presentation comes around every year, but if it's a constant thing where they're being reminded and they're being educated and you're working with them, they can become a strong asset for you. With regards to determining how aware they are, training your users and then assessing them by sending them those phishing emails from within your organization can help you spot the weaknesses and work with those people so that they can easily catch those phishing attempts later on coming down the line. You can see the results when you do your own phishing assessments. With KnowBe4, we have a PAB, a phishing alert button that allows you to get what actual phishing emails are coming in and help you spot those and then be able to remove them from inboxes. But training everybody is key, and everybody from the C-suite, the board, the upper level managers, your first level managers, people that are on the front lines, everybody needs to be aware of what's going on, make the training interactive and engaging, make sure that they're aware of all the different attack vectors that are going on, and have that awareness so that then they take it home and they're doing it at home as well. Just really quick, when it comes to phishing, if you don't have any type of training going on, 1 in 3 people within your organization are going to fall for a phishing attack. Once you can start having more training involved, and you can see on the chart, it varies, low 20s, up to the mid-30s, where people are prone to those phishing attacks. If you can educate them, then that's going to drop it down tremendously. You end up going from, your mid-30s, 1 in 3 people, to now almost, 1 in 20 people are falling for your phishing attacks. It gets you a quick return on that, reduce those malware infections and those opportunities for the cyber criminals to get in. All right, real quick, some final thoughts I want to leave with you. Some ransomware successes. It's not all doom and gloom. 73% of cyber criminals succeeded in encrypting the data. Okay, so that's not a success, but 94% of the victims got their data back after paying the ransom. Granted, we recommend not paying it, but sometimes people don't have backups, or they're not able to get the files decrypted, so they end up having to pay, but they do get them back. 84% of them have cyber insurance, and then 64% of those actually provide insurance in the event that you get an attack. This is just a fun little cartoon. I always like to show it when I'm doing the ransomware. You think about your homes and all the IoT or electronic devices that you may have in your home, with regards to your fridge, with your vacuum cleaner, your doorbell, your thermostat. If those were to be hit with some type of ransomware, what kind of response would you get from them? And you can see the different responses here. And finally, this will be the groan of the day, but how did the hackers get away from the FBI? they ransomware. So leave you finally with the Ransomware Hostage Manual. It's a free download that you can get from KnowBe4. It goes through in detail a lot more of the information that I've talked about here today. And then, of course, all the different resources and tools that we have available that are free, knowbe4.com/resources. You can also even check out for next month, if you're working on or collaborating with anybody doing your National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we have a fantastic brand new resource kit for 2020, planners, training modules, videos, infographics, all cool stuff. I encourage you to go check it out. And that's what I've got for today. I'll take any questions that anybody's got.
Absolutely, yeah. Great presentation, James. Love the jokes as well. Let's do some questions with the audience. While we do that, I'll just bring up this poll. The poll on the screen I want to call everyone's attention to is, what additional information would you like about the KnowBe4 solution? There's a question out here. Dylan is asking about a smishing test. Does KnowBe4 do that?
So the SMS phishing tests with regards to your text messages, to my understanding, it's not something we have available yet. I know it is something we're working towards because it is a different kind of technology that's available, because we've got to be able to send text messages out to phone numbers. Right now, it's done with emails, but that is something that it's important to have, but it's not something I'm aware of that we have right now.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
We'll
look forward to that. Next question. There's a question here from Scotty's asking, how often should we send phishing tests to our users?
So your phishing program, for me, isn't something that you do once or twice a year. Within KnowBe4, there's that saying, eat your own dog food. Well, that's what we do. I know I get phished at least twice a week. You want to be, until you get those numbers down low where you're comfortable, where you're not getting them to click on anything, they're not falling for any of the phishing campaigns, then you may want to stretch it out. I've known some organizations that they've been, after a year and a half of running it, none of their employees are clicking on anything. They're sending in a lot of the phishing. So you want to do it on a frequent basis, whatever's comfortable that's good for your culture and your environment. But if you can go once a week, go once a week.
Good advice. Yeah, absolutely. There's a question here from Elizabeth. She's asking about, does security awareness training really change based on the compliance, regulations that you're under? For example, she's asking about HIPAA. Is there something different that a company who's tasked with complying with HIPAA would do versus other companies, or what have you seen?
So when it comes to compliance, they require that you have some type of security awareness program. They don't talk about how in-depth it needs to be. It doesn't talk about what needs to be done. Some do talk about frequency. So with regards to, a security awareness program and a strong cybersecurity culture organization, you're constantly promoting your, cybersecurity, the different, the techniques and the tips and the information. You're constantly making it part of the culture for your organization. So, while compliance is that checkbox going, yep, we did this, if you can drive it so that you're doing cybersecurity all the time, that awareness is out there, it helps the employees. It becomes second nature to them. I came out of the energy industry working for Siemens, and one of the big things in power plants and manufacturing is health and safety. And health and safety is such a strong part of their culture that every day at every meeting, there's some tip that somebody talks about that they have to research and present to the group, or everybody does a roundtable first thing in the morning and somebody brings up a cybersecurity tip. That is one of the things that you want to do within your own culture to kind of take that step beyond compliance. We've talked about compliance doesn't equal security. But if you can drive it more within your culture, so if you're in HIPAA and you're in healthcare, when your nurses are doing their changeover stations in the morning, if somebody can have a tip, doctors, or in doctors' offices having things that are available. So that's that reminder, and people are aware of it, and it becomes a part of their culture rather than just being, oh, here's a 30-minute training presentation, click, 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 finish.
Absolutely. Yeah, good tips. Hector's asking, are there any special recommendations for security awareness training for the board? Like, do executives have a different type of training or different topics that they go through versus, frontline workers?
Definitely. And that's a fantastic question, because not everybody their expectations are what they're getting. With the board, we do have, I know we've got a 15-minute presentation versus the 45-minute presentation that's made available to those frontline employees. But that 15-minute one, because we know people that work on a board and C-suite, their time is extremely valuable. We want them to be aware of it and still provide that information. So they do get a bit of a shorter one. A lot of the time it might be educating them on the bigger threats with regards to like ransomware, making sure they're aware of it, because at a board level, for them, it's revenue, it's brand, what's a risk to the organization and how do we mitigate that? And so they get educated a lot more, or they get specific information relating to what those big threats are and that impact to the company. Whereas your frontline employee will get, that 45-minute, they'll get in depth, but they'll get a lot more different topics as well.
Got it. Okay. Well, very cool. I'll just bring up this slide here with your contact information for anyone out there who has additional questions. James, it's been really great having you on the presentation or the event today. Just great presentation, great insight and security tips. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. Take care.
And thank you to KnowBe4 for supporting today's event. Check out, again, the URL that's there at the top of your handouts tab. That'll take you to the KnowBe4 Ransomware Simulator. It's a really cool tool and completely free. So make sure that you check that one out before you go. All right, and with that, it's time to move on to our next presentation. I'm excited to introduce Mr. Michael McKinley, Security Solutions Engineer at Rapid7. Michael, are you there?
I am.
Thanks for being on the event today, Michael. Take it away.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So I guess we will just go ahead and jump right into it. So today what we're going to be talking about is up-leveling your security and networking capabilities. This is a great topic. It's something that's near and dear to my heart in normal times. But just given the state of the world lately, I mean, we're experiencing, not only the need to continue to up-level these security capabilities, but in addition, we're also needing to do that in a way where we're being asked to do more with less. A lot of the folks in the cybersecurity industry come from the veteran community, myself being a former Marine. This ask is not new to me. This is what I've been doing for a long time now, since I was 18 years old. But specifically what we're being asked to do is we need more visibility. We need, visibility into new challenges that we really haven't faced before, by and large, just, when we're talking about folks working as security professionals or IT professionals across a number of different verticals. So what we're being asked to do is secure a remote workforce. A lot of us have never been asked to do that before. And we're also being asked to secure these SaaS and cloud solutions mid-migration. It's almost like building the plane while we're flying it. And so these newer technologies, if I've been working in networks, got my, Cisco certs and have been going that route for my whole career, it can be a little bit of a daunting task to look at adjusting to, this entire new infrastructure as a service model where, there's going to be certain components like my S3 buckets that don't even have an IP address I can scan. And what do I do with that? And so at Rapid7, we've really made it our goal in large part to support teams who are being asked to do these things with smaller budget, with less headcount. And the way that we're doing that is we're doing that by taking an approach that really encompasses a suite of solutions. And that suite of solutions is going to help us identify the areas of weakness that we need help on the front end, as well as help us respond to events on, as they're ongoing. So without further ado, jumping into the Rapid7 platform. The Rapid7 Insight platform, the first place we're going to start is with visibility, because if you can't see it, you can't secure it. And that's where we're talking about vulnerability management and application security. We need to be able to see where the holes are. The equivalent I always think about here is this is the equivalent of having that security guard walking around the building checking all the locks on the doors, making sure everything looks the way it should. And in certain cases, if it's an important room, walking into that room and making sure that, there's no other way in, or there's no, nothing exposed that shouldn't be. So that's what we're doing there. We start to bridge the gap from just that sort of visibility and to visibility and analytics with a little bit of prevention baked in, and automation when we get to DivvyCloud. And then our detection and response capabilities. So we go from visibility. With DivvyCloud, we start looking at some policy enforcement, and then we're looking at how we can detect, respond, and then even automate some of those incident response playbooks through orchestration and automation. And Rapid7 has tools to help with each one of these elements. So moving in, I think we're going to start with vulnerability management. So InsightVM, vulnerability management, that's really Rapid7's bread and butter. That's what's helped build the company into what it is today. When we started 20 years ago, that meant scanning, and then once you've scanned your network, you pull in those results, you put them into a spreadsheet, and you get that over to IT for patching, and then you just lather, rinse, repeat. Well, things have gotten more complex as we've moved forward, and there's a lot of challenging questions out there these days. Okay, great. Our old scanning methodology worked just fine when everybody came in the office, but how do we scan, these devices that are not on the corporate network with any regularity? We're transitioning to cloud. How, like the example earlier, how do I scan an S3 bucket, or what do I do about these cloud services that have components we're responsible for securing, but that don't respond to a traditional vulnerability scan? And that's where InsightVM has really grown and matured with our user base, and gives us the capability to go in and say, okay, for those remote workers, rather than traditional scanning mechanisms, we got the Insight agent. That Insight agent is going to report back and 4 times a day provide updates on vulnerabilities on those remote machines that are not on the corporate network. When it comes to cloud configuration or container assessment, we've got specific tabs built out for each one of those. And we just continue to, iterate on this and include that in InsightVM, so that we can take what the folks who have been working with InsightVM are used to for years, build on it in a way that's intuitive to really bridge the gap and help them make that transition. Now, InsightIDR, this is our detection and response solution. InsightIDR, I was so excited about this particular technology when I got to Rapid7 because I'd come from a SIEM background. And for anybody here who's worked with SIEM, with that, security incident and event management solution in the past, you might be, you might be triggered just from the acronym itself, because traditionally what we found was the way that the SIEM was implemented required a lot of research and then writing a lot of advanced rules to correlate machine behaviors together to logically figure out when we are seeing something that's worth responding to. That also led to a lot of noise. And so analysts were sitting stuck just triaging through a number of alerts and events, trying to get to what mattered. InsightIDR takes a unique approach that is really well suited for our current situation, because from the get-go, what we've been saying is, okay, rather than just looking at what's going on with those machines in the network and treating the edge of the network as the fence, so to speak, that the malicious actors are trying to get into, your users are your biggest perimeter. The perimeter to your network is your users. And so what we've done with InsightIDR, we've leveraged that same agent technology that we're leveraging with InsightVM and able to push that machine data back to InsightIDR. But then in conjunction with that, by tapping into some foundational event sources, we're able to analyze user behavior and actually attribute actions taken on machines to users. What this has done is this allows our clients to leverage those pre-configured rules and catch these potential attacks earlier in the kill chain, respond sooner. And when it comes to incident response, time to response is really the name of the game, because that's where you're able to get in and actually mitigate the cost financially, the cost to reputation, and just the cost to quality of life while you're in the middle of responding to an incident, going through, and then the after action that follows on. So InsightIDR, it provides those capabilities not only in those traditional on-prem environments, but as I mentioned, by leveraging the Insight agent, your remote workforce, we're getting that data in as well. So we're still able to keep tabs on those remote workers from not only a vulnerability standpoint, but from an incident detection and response standpoint. We're also able to hook in to your cloud service providers. So, again, if you're making that migration to AWS or to Azure, then we can help with that migration, with that sort of seamless piece of giving you the visibility from InsightIDR so that you can maintain your security posture throughout that migration. The other piece is we're able to connect with the cloud-hosted apps, like the Google Suite, Office 365, Salesforce, and pull in data there and just ensure we're getting a holistic picture of the, key devices, key individuals, as well as those key technologies that your organization is leveraging. So DivvyCloud is really unique because, we're talking about this cloud migration piece. One of the trends we're seeing in cloud migration a lot more, I'd say in the past year, is a multi-cloud migration. What you'll have is these organizations, and these organizations, what they look at is okay, cool. What we need a cloud platform that's going to be great for heavy data analytics. We need a cloud platform that's flexible in terms of working with a few different apps that our company uses that are built on multiple frameworks. And then from an infrastructure standpoint, because, we've been heavily invested with Windows, we're also going to need some back-end services, and we prefer to go, kind of the Windows route with that. And what I just described was, okay, great. So we're looking at GCP, the Google Cloud Platform, AWS, and Azure, and really getting the most out of each platform. But how do you secure an environment like that without having an expert in each? Well, DivvyCloud is going to provide a huge help there. Because with DivvyCloud, you're able to compose these policies and then push those policies out across multiple cloud environments. So, for instance, if you had a policy that said, hey, when we spin up a compute instance, we need to make sure that, port 22 is not open to the world, or, other policies around that, you push that out through DivvyCloud, and it gets pushed out to all three of those cloud providers mentioned earlier, in addition to some other cloud providers that I'm not mentioning, Alibaba being one of them. But at that point, what happens is you push that out, and you can help ensure that policy is pushed out across multiple clouds from a single platform. And in addition, you can help ensure that policy is being enforced through the deployment of bots within DivvyCloud. Now, moving over to InsightAppSec. InsightAppSec, this really represents a pivot in security over the last 10 years where attackers found that, okay, the traditional means of exploiting a vulnerability can be kind of tedious sometimes. However, there are these fun new web applications, and there's about, 10 really common ways to break into those or to mess with them. You just have to figure out how to do it with each one. So, for a lot of security professionals, they were coming from more of an infrastructure, more of a networking background, and didn't have the, the advantage of coming from a development background or, coming from an application security background. So because of that, what we've tried to do here at Rapid7 is really create and continue to, to build on technology for application security that does not only provide the ability to get in and get effective coverage across multiple frameworks of that applications can be built on. But in addition, we've done that in a way that'll also, just like InsightVM can help you monitor that end-to-end discovery of vulnerability to remediation process and provide you recommendations on what remediations to provide or to implement, InsightAppSec has that same functionality. So once we scan an application, we'll get the results in, and those results, they're going to include fewer false positives. We're able to break those down and then pass us over to our developers, along with the ability to, leverage the InsightAppSec toolkit, which is just a browser extension that allows you to retest in real time. So you get that recommendation, you go in and you make sure things are secure, And that way it can speed up that process. And again, really try to continue to facilitate a strong relationship in DevSecOps between the developers and between the security team. Now, let's say that, we want to up-level that a step further. And what we want to do is we want to implement this dashed scanning as part of that software development lifecycle. Well, in that case, what we can do is we can integrate. We have direct integrations with Jenkins, Azure DevOps, as well as a few others, and we also have an open REST API we could use to integrate. So at this point, InsightAppSec becomes a gate in your build process. So for instance, as code's being committed, as being pushed through, tests are being run, there's a couple of tests that we could look at running. One, if you're using containers to push this code out, we just jump back a few slides to InsightVM. That can be automated as part of that build process as well. So that way, if the container image contains vulnerabilities, we can fail the build to ensure we're not pushing a vulnerable application or vulnerable infrastructure into production. In the same way, if the application comes through and there are high or medium vulnerabilities, so for example, if this new functionality also provides the user with an opportunity to effectively execute a persistent cross-site script, we could take that and automatically scan, and then based on those results, automatically fail that build as well. Or, ideal scenario that we make it through. InsightAppSec does not detect evidence of those vulnerabilities. And as we've made it through, we're good to go, and it just passes that build straight through. So the next time the security team runs a scan with InsightAppSec, we're going to have even fewer results get back to those developers because we have pushed security to the left in our secure software development lifecycle and are able to push out secure apps on a more regular cadence. Well, this is all great, but the one thing we haven't spoken about is, okay, these solutions sound fantastic, but in the trifecta of technology, people, and processes, I got my processes pretty well down. I could probably use some help getting, kind of refining those. We feel like we don't have the people sometimes, and so that's where we get to the final solution we're going to mention today, which is going to be InsightConnect. InsightConnect allows us to automate without coding. So if you do not have a development background, if the security team doesn't have dedicated development resources, InsightConnect can really speed up time to response. So for instance, if there is specific alerts in InsightIDR that are going to have the same investigation workflow and then one of two responses, we can automate that workflow for enrichment. For instance, the alert comes in, and then from that alert, we can parse IP address, we can parse the domain, or any process associated with that. And then we can enrich that data. We can, go through and look at the reputation of those IPs or those domains. So a few different elements that we have options for in terms of ways that we can speed it up so that what we're really delivering and focusing on for security professionals is the thought work that the teams were hired to do and brought in to do in the first place. So InsightConnect, the other piece of this, though, too, is I don't want to exclude folks with an automation or development background from this, because InsightConnect can be next level as well. If we're talking to a security team and they already have some PowerShell or Python scripts that are composed they're using for automation, you don't have to throw those away, because we can actually ingest those as part of an overall automated workflow. But the benefit there is, we'll bring in that custom snippet of code, but we'll provide each of the rest of those integrations or, actions that you want to take, and by virtue of doing that through InsightConnect, the onus to make sure that the, any updates are taken into account, that our integrations are up to date and that everything is working is on Rapid7. So we can really provide a help with a lift there. And I think InsightConnect, leveraged in conjunction with InsightVM, InsightIDR, and the other solutions we've covered today, really provides the end user with an experience where they are being presented data and they're able to make those decisions quicker than they might otherwise be, getting us back to that speeding up time to response piece. All right. Well, so that's a really quick high-level overview and kind of down and dirty of the Rapid7 portfolio. What I wanted to do was just take a minute, take a breath myself, and see if there were any questions out there.
Absolutely, yeah. We do have some questions for you. Let's see, Michael, while we do that, I'm going to bring up this poll for everyone out there in the audience that says, what additional information would you like about the Rapid7 solution? And I want to call everyone's attention to that. So let's see, Michael, first question that came in I wanted to ask you about is when it comes to Rapid or InsightIDR, is InsightIDR, you kind of look at that as like the glue that connects all of the Rapid7 solutions together? And does that also extend outside to like third-party solutions they might have already in their IT infrastructure?
Absolutely. So the two primary use cases we see with InsightIDR is going to be that SIEM, which functions as that security data hub in a lot of cases. So within InsightIDR, we are going to be pulling in data from InsightVM. And we're continuing to integrate on integrations with our other solutions. So be sure and stay tuned for that. But InsightIDR is going to act as that hub. We're going to pull in that data from InsightVM, but we're also going to be able to pull in data from your other enterprise, like your antivirus applications, your endpoint detection and response applications, your firewalls, proxies. All of those can pull data in, and in conjunction, InsightIDR does give you the ability to centralize and manage your logs, which obviously can be important if you're engaged in any sort of regulatory compliance, but is also super helpful just from a troubleshooting standpoint. And along with our pre-configured rules and our pre-configured alerts we have built into InsightIDR, you're also able to go in and configure custom alerts. And those custom alerts can actually be alerts generated off of those third-party tools. It's a simple, intuitive process when it comes to those custom alert creation. And better, even better, you can actually you can trigger an InsightConnect workflow based on those custom alerts. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, very good. Very interesting. Another question here, they're asking about the Rapid7 SIEM solution, and is it a cloud, is it a SaaS solution, or is it an on-prem solution?
It is a SaaS solution. So from an on-prem infrastructure standpoint, what we would be looking at would be this. We'd be looking at deploying agents to your servers and your workstations. Those agents would then report back to InsightIDR, which is cloud hosted. The way we'll typically route that is we would deploy collectors, which are virtual machines that function as a proxy for those agents. They provide a couple of advantages, but one of the main ones being just that 10-to-1 compression rate and a single egress point for agents from the corporate network. But if those agents are not on a corporate network, they can still connect back to InsightIDR directly through the internet. So those would be the on-premise component. The only other would be another VM component called an orchestrator, and that facilitates those integrations we were talking about for automated workflows, either built-in automation in InsightIDR or the more advanced automation that we can accomplish with InsightConnect. Got it. Okay. And then those Insight agents, is it possible to deploy those remotely? Absolutely. The Insight agent, it can be deployed one at a time, obviously, but you can also push those out through your package manager like SCCM. You can run a token-based installation. Honestly, for folks who are comfortable with MSI files and group policy, we also recommended that as a means of pushing out. Got it. Okay. And then what about reporting? Is that included in the Insight platform? It is. So each one of those solutions are going to have pre-configured reports, and they're also going to have customizable dashboards. So from a data visualization standpoint, that's an area where we get a lot of positive feedback in terms of, our solutions are considered industry leading, for their functionality, but also because we're able to visualize data in a way that makes it meaningful for those who need to get into the nitty-gritty on the ground. We need to look at each individual vulnerability and what the proposed patch is, and do that in the context of how important those machines are. All of that can be accomplished in InsightVM without having to jump into a spreadsheet. But if we want to back up and we need to say, okay, we need a high-level overview of the security posture of this particular application, we can provide executive summary style reports that are a little bit more graphical and just don't get as deep in the weeds.
Excellent. Excellent. Let's see. What about cloud migration? There's a question here about, do you have any advice for organizations who started migrating or getting ready to migrate to the cloud? Can Rapid7 assist in that or better secure that in some way?
Absolutely. So the first recommendation I would have for cloud migration: build security into those processes before you even kind of take off, so to speak. Here's what that could look like practically. Rapid7 tools have integrations with a lot of the major cloud providers. So, a good first step would be going ahead and just setting up a few test instances and making sure that we are getting the appropriate data from those. And then once we're able to connect into those, we're getting the data we want to see. Some best practices would include a few different things. One, a cloud security assessment. So the cloud configuration assessment within InsightVM would give you the ability to monitor, those services with their cloud specific you couldn't scan traditionally, and would let you know of any configuration issues that you needed to address. Two is going to be making sure that those golden images we're using as we spin up new compute instances are secure. We can scan those golden images, and in addition to that, we can bake the Insight agent into those golden images, so that way, as soon as that machine is spun up, it automatically starts reporting data back to InsightVM and InsightIDR. And by scanning those images on a regular basis, we're making sure that we're pushing out, secure machines from the get-go. Again, kind of pushing that security further left. And then the final recommendation within that is just going to be to continue to iterate and continue to look for areas to improve. One of the things that you can do with that, obviously, you're going to want to connect in with InsightIDR and get a holistic picture of the activities that are occurring there. But we're also, going to want to leverage DivvyCloud and just make sure that our policies are being enforced and that we are seeing the cloud leveraged in a secure way that makes things worthwhile for all those who are using it.
Excellent. Excellent. There's a question that came in from Richard about can Rapid7 assist in mobile device security in some way?
So mobile device management, MDM, is really out of the scope of our solution portfolio at Rapid7. That said, the only caveat to that is if you're developing mobile applications, so applications designed for iOS or for Android, if they're heavily reliant on an API for the backend, that is something that we can definitely scan that backend API and ensure that nobody can do anything malicious from a dynamic standpoint by manipulating those calls.
Excellent. And then before we go, I want to ask you again about this 30-day free trial. So there's a Rapid7 Insight trial and the Rapid7 demo. If people go and sign up for the trial, can you kind of walk us through, like, what do they receive or what is it they can do with that?
Absolutely. So our trials are going to be full functioning. And there's two different paths, really, that we see our clients going down. There's that self-guided trial path. You get on the website, you download the trial. We'll probably reach out to you and just make sure you have the support you need. But from that point, you really would be in the driver's seat. You can leverage our robust documentation as well as other resources in and around our website at rapid7.com. The other option for this would be, let's say you engage in a trial, but this is something where, okay, you really want to test a few capabilities of the solution that you're trialing. At that point, it would likely be a good idea to engage Rapid7 because If we get into a supported proof of concept trial, at that point, you would have the support of an account team as well as one of our security solutions engineers like myself. And what we would do with you is we would walk you through best practices and how to implement the solution, make sure it gets up and running and meets those success criteria for you. The other added benefit to that, at least the feedback we've been getting from clients, is that route also allows them to not only trial out our technology, but also to trial out that partnership with Rapid7 and understand what it would be like to work with us on an ongoing basis and get a little snapshot.
Excellent. All right, that sounds easy. It sounds like a great opportunity for anyone out there looking to improve their security is to sign up for the free trial and just check it out for themselves, see how it can help their company. Michael, I'm afraid that's all the time we have, but it's been really great having you on. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
For more information on Rapid7, like Michael said, visit rapid7.com, sign up for the trial, check out the demo. There's also a link there in your handouts tab to the Rapid7 platform demo that you can see a full demo of all the different Rapid7 solutions right there on that website. And with that, it's time for our first gift card announcement. We have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Austin Taylor from Ohio. Congratulations, Austin Taylor from Ohio. And now I'm excited to introduce our next presenter on today's EcoCast. Excited to welcome Mio Zarni, Senior Director for Product Management at Open Systems. Mio, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can, yeah. Thanks for being on the event today. Take it away.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for attending the webinar. My name is Mio Zarni. I'm a product manager at Open Systems. And today's topic is about leveraging integrated networking and security capabilities of SASE and MDR services. In particular, I want to focus on two areas in today's webinar. One, why networking and security capabilities are coming together in both on-prem and cloud environments. And two, what do these SASE, Secure Access Service Edge, and MDR, Managed Service Detection and Response services do? What do they offer? And what are the considerations that we need to think about in selecting these services? And I'd like to wrap up today's webinar with a practical example of how SASE and MDR solutions come together in case of a breach. And first, a quick word about Open Systems. We are a managed service provider of SASE and MDR services. We are based out of Zurich and Redwood City, California. We're not a new company. We've been around for over 30 years. Our customer base includes mid to large enterprises around the world. In fact, we're in about 8,000 locations in over 180 countries. And our differentiation is really around service. We consistently get very high levels of net promoter scores, or NPS scores, quite rare for managed service providers. And the reason we can do that is that our network and security operations centers are staffed only with level 3 engineers. And we have those centers around the world in Zurich, Redwood City, here in the Bay Area, and in Honolulu. So without further ado, let's look into what the drivers are for network and security integration. The drivers are really the market trends, right? In particular, the rise of mobile and cloud computing, which has made the following happening. You can have your users and endpoints can be anywhere, your applications can be anywhere, and your data can be anywhere. And what that means is that your traditional security infrastructures in your data centers and DMZs are increasingly irrelevant. your users are likely bypassing them. So I want to dive into what Gartner calls this any-to-any dynamic access requirements problem. So you've got your users on one side. They can be your employees. They can be your non-employees like contractors or partners or even consumers. They can be anywhere. They can be using corporate issued or personal devices, and they can be accessing applications that you control on-prem, in the cloud, or you're leasing, a SaaS, or applications that you don't control at all. But what IT security would like to do is at least gain visibility on all the flows that involve assets, corporate assets on at least one side. And once we gain visibility, then we want to implement security policies that are identity and context aware, like user identity, device identity, and context like device posture, location, time of day, and so on and so forth. And this needs to be done on a continuous basis. So it is not just enough to say that I've done it and now you're free to go for the next X number of hours. And last but not least, we need to make sure that we're able to perform these functions performantly. This is a very important point because without performance, users are likely going to bypass the infrastructures. So a quick word about SD-WAN. What about SD-WAN, right? Hasn't that brought a lot of innovations? Well, yes, it has brought the ability to combine a lot of network underlays that allow enterprises to save on WAN costs. It has also allowed users to be able to break out directly to the internet, thereby making application performance faster. But the issue is that most SD-WAN solutions don't have security built in. At most, they may offer a layer 4 firewall. So if you want to do additional security, you have to ship it to where the security infrastructures are located. So if they are located in your data centers, that means you're back to square one before you had SD-WAN, right? So SD-WAN plus security, you're going to have, if you don't have built-in security with SD-WAN, you're going to have poor user experience as you did before. You're still going to have to manage a myriad of security devices, and which is going to result in slow IT response times. So I like to break up the problem into two sets. But the first problem is how do we support these any-to-any flows that are coming in? And how do we actually enable IT to enforce security, but without adversely impacting user experience? That's the problem set one. The second thing is, how do we make sure that we're able to detect and respond to these threats on a continuous basis? And how do we make sure that when threat incidents do occur, that they don't happen over and over again? So these are the two problems that I like to address today. So how does Secure Access Service Edge or SASE address what Gartner calls any-to-any dynamic access issue? So the first thing that SASE solutions need to support is to support all types of endpoints. So that means not only the traditional branch offices or data centers, but also your users who could be mobile or remote office or using personal devices. And as a second step, we want to encourage the use of the optimal path, right? We do not want to trombone traffic to go somewhere. We want to actually catch the traffic as quickly as we can and apply a set of tightly integrated set of security services. I will explain why tight integration is necessary. And we want to apply policies that are identity and context aware. And last but not least, SASE is a service, right? It would be quite difficult for most enterprises to put together their own SASE solution. So what are the SASE services? This is a sample that Gartner published last year. So on the networking side, you can have SD-WAN with firewall and maybe with WAN optimization. On the network security side, you have the proxy, your ZTNA, Zero Trust Network Access, CASI, and so on and so forth. Now, what I wanted to highlight, SASE is very broad, and what I want to highlight is two things in this webinar, right? The first thing is around tight integration. SASE is not merely about offering a bunch of security services from the cloud. Those security services need to be tightly integrated for two reasons. One, for performance. Without tight integration, you're not going to get the latency gains that you want to have, right? So you want to ask your SASE provider, how tightly integrated are you, right? Do you have a lot of service chains in there? Are you able to treat the traffic, able to do a single pass of inspection of the packets? Even more importantly, are you able to manage your devices' security policies in a one consistent manner, right? Without that, you're going to have the same type of issues that you had on-prem, just now relocated into the cloud. That's one. The second thing that we want to think about is, enterprises should think about is, what is the use case, right? What are the key use cases? So if your use case is primarily that, most of my applications are in the cloud, right? In that case, it makes perfect sense to have a lot of security infrastructure to be in the cloud. And you don't need a lot of security at the branch office. You do want to have a firewall, maybe WAN optimization, but it makes sense. It makes sense to have the security infrastructure in the cloud. But if your situation is reversed, if most of your applications and workloads are still on-prem, then you want to have network and security capabilities right there and then. Like, you want to catch the traffic as quickly as possible. So take a look at what your use case is. But I suspect that a lot of our listeners probably have a hybrid cloud type situation where some of the workloads are in the cloud and some of the workloads are on-prem. In that case, we want to make sure that the SASE service is able to provide tightly integrated services, both network and security, both on-prem as well as in the cloud, right? So the moral takeaway is really know your use cases. Now, next, I'd like to look into why we need to, how do we minimize the risk in this any-to-any environments. So the reality is that despite all the preventive security measures that we have implemented, things are going to get in, right? We have to assume breach. So what we need to do is to be prepared to be able to detect and respond to any types of security incidents that may take place, known and especially unknown threats. So the best practice is to augment the preventive security technologies that you've implemented, say provided by a SASE provider, for example, with the continuous monitoring, detection, and response capabilities that can be used by a SOC. Of course, building a SOC is not easy. There are a bunch of challenges. To state the obvious, threats are becoming more and more sophisticated. And to track down these sophisticated threats, we need to get data and telemetry from across the spectrum, really, from from the endpoints, from the network, from applications, and so on. But the issue is that our operation centers are already getting too many alerts, right? They're already drowning into them, and they don't know what to do with them. So to do this right, yes, we need to make infrastructure investments into the infrastructures that can store and analyze and correlate these events. But we also need to invest in automation. We also need to invest in the security staff that can investigate and analyze all of these issues, right? So all of this is quite difficult, right? It's not easy and can be quite expensive. But we need to do it. We need the ability to get to have detection and response capabilities throughout the spectrum in order to be able to detect what's happening. So I want to take us through the particular example through the kill chain. For example, we may want to look at vulnerability scans and firewalls to see if any suspicious traffic has gone to a host that might not be patched. We might want to look at email and proxy logs to see if a malware has been delivered and when that malware made it into the network. We want to look at the endpoint systems to see if a particular vulnerability has been exploited and if that malware has been installed. And we want to look at both network and endpoint detection systems to see if there has been any lateral movement. Has a threat actor gained control of a particular system, and has the threat actor begun working on malicious actions? So the point is that we need to have both endpoint and network capabilities to really track down threat events. So this is the approach that we have taken at Open Systems. So our SASE service provides tightly integrated network and security services, but we augment these services with our MDR system. Our MDR is based on Azure Sentinel, which provides both SIEM and SOAR, or security operations and automation response system capabilities. And of course, they are managed by our SOC and NOC centers. So I would like to take us through a typical attack that we see. And typically, there would be an initial infection, and there's going to be a detection phase where the human SOC analyst starts to look at all of these alerts and logs and starts to investigate. And depending on the processes that we've established with the customer, we can either take containment actions that we're allowed to do, and we can start talking to the customer that hey, you also need to start taking containment actions. But typically, what happens is that there is going to be a recurrence of the same infection. A lot of people think that, I think it's a very common perception is that incidents follow a straight line from detection to remediation. But what typically happens is incidents follow multiple rounds and multiple cycles of detection and response before we actually get to the final remediation stage. So there is going to be the SOC analyst will need to continue to work with the customer for other rounds of detection and go through other rounds of containment and finally getting to remediation. So this is how typically a typical attack would be handled. So what's important is So what's important really is the ability to have SOC and the customer to have a very close relationship. the SOC team, the provider team, needs to understand the business use case, the priorities of the customer, and also there should already be a process established as to who is going to do what in the event of a breach. And typically what we find is that that relationship evolves as more and more trust is placed. And also the SOC analyst, if the SOC team is able to make additional changes on the security side with firewalls and proxies, then containment action can also be could be done faster. Again, I won't repeat this. Building a SOC is very expensive and it takes years to build. And Open Systems offers a full portfolio of SASE and NDR services. Our SASE services have both networking, SD-WAN, and security built in, right? And they're available both on-prem and in the cloud. And our NDR service is built on top of Azure Sentinel, and we have a SOC team that is dedicated to serving our clients. Thank you.
Great presentation, Mio. We do have some questions for you here from the audience. I'll just bring up this poll while we do the Q&A. So the first question that I saw that came in, they're asking about the differences between MSSPs and MDR providers. Can you explain that?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. MSSPs are really service providers that are focused on managing your security infrastructure, right? So they'll handle the installation and management of policies and so on and so forth. But MDR is really a managed service that specializes in detecting threats and threat actors, basically threat detection and response. And NDRs are staffed with skilled security people and have years of experience of detection and response and containment and response.
Got it. Okay, that makes sense. And then can MDR providers automatically take a containment action?
Yes, they can, but with pre-authorization. As I was saying, the MDR providers need to work very closely with the customer and work out the processes so that they know which ones are important, which assets are important, what assets need to be contained in what way. So the customer and the MDR provider need to work closely and figure out which ones are important, what the provider is able to do, is allowed to do. So. Okay, that makes sense. I like that with authorization point there. Yeah.
So will the Open Systems MDR service work with existing endpoint protection products?
Yes. Basically, if we can get the telemetry from those endpoint products into our SIEM, which is Azure Sentinel, absolutely. Our MDR product doesn't require that you buy our SASE service from us or our endpoint detection service from us. We can work with other vendors so long as we get the proper telemetry.
Excellent. And then, so if somebody wanted to get started with Open Systems, what's your recommendation?
Definitely, please visit our website, and we can definitely follow up with you and come up with have a discussion around your requirements and provide you with support, whatever support you need.
Excellent. All right. Well, it sounds like a great solution. Really cool presentation. I love all the technical details in there. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And thank you to Open Systems for supporting today's event. Make sure that you check out the handout that's available there in your audience console on the Open Systems Managed Detection and Response solution. It's a solution brief. And of course, like Neo said, visit the Open Systems website and give it a try for yourself. Sounds like it could help to really up-level the security at a lot of companies out there. And now it's time for our next gift card prize announcement. We've got an Amazon $500 gift card. This one's going to Kelly Plymell from Washington. Congratulations. Kelly Plymell from Washington. Still another gift card to give out after our next presentation, so make sure you stay tuned. And now I'm excited to introduce our next presenter on today's Security EcoCast. Welcome, Mr. Jason Baudreau, Vice President of Product Marketing. Jason, are you there?
I am here. Can everybody hear me?
We can, yeah. Thanks for being on, Jason. Take it away.
All right, yeah. Thank you so much for having me, everybody. Thank you for kind of giving me the opportunity. I'll have 20 minutes to run through an introduction about NetBrain and automation for network operations. Some of you may know of NetBrain or maybe customers of NetBrain, and others maybe not yet. So I know today's topic kind of covers a spectrum of things across kind of the security and the networking landscape. Today we're going to talk a lot more about particularly network automation. And so hopefully you're seeing my presentation here. It's a topic, automate resolution for every ticket. And particularly today we're going to talk about no-code automation for every ticket. And I'll talk about why we're focused on tickets in particular. So from the network side, where do teams actually spend the most time? I know the topic today is pretty heavy on security, but even within IT, the question is kind of what's happening within IT and where are teams spending the most time? And according to at least this one data point from Cisco's 2019 Global Network Trends Survey, 30% of the time is detecting and remediating security threats, and about a third of the time, total IT time, is spent identifying and troubleshooting network issues. And you can actually really lump these two things together because when there's sort of an outage or a compromised application, it's very much unknown if it's a security issue or if it's a network issue. As a matter of fact, I just saw in the news today, Tesla, one of my favorite companies, they had their battery day yesterday. Tesla today had a major network outage affecting everybody that has a car, their ability to connect to the car, impacting all of their internal applications. And the headline said, they think it's a security breach. But that's kind of the point, is it's actually not known if it's a network event or if it's a security event, because all that matters is that there's a problem to the end user. And all teams have to sort of get together to find out what's the root cause of that problem. And so that's going to be what we spend a lot of time in my presentation today talking about. Within the context of the broader IT, in particular network management lifecycle, this is really just talking about the operations side. Cisco described the network operations lifecycle as prepare, plan, design, implement, operate, and optimize, the PPDIOO. So today we're really zeroing in on that O, the second O, the first O rather, the operations side. 2/3 of time within IT is spent on just network operations, and that's really, again, troubleshooting issues wherever they may come from, malicious or otherwise. And so let's just take a second to sort of assess the impact of an enterprise. We talk about enterprise networks because they're the largest and the most complex in the world, and the volume of the events that they're being kind of hit with every day is actually measured typically over 1,000. So some of our larger enterprise customers would have thousands of tickets every day, every ticket representing a possible problem that needs to be resolved. And so you can go through the exercise to organize those tickets into different categories. You can organize what are the most frequently occurring ones, what's the root cause of those. You can look at which one of those tickets require the most amount of effort behind them, which ones are highly manual, maybe spending hours or even days to resolve, and then which of those tickets are high impact. So high impact would be those are the ones you hear on the news. That Tesla example is an example of a high impact outage impacting thousands or hundreds of thousands even of their customers. So not every ticket is a massive network outage, but every ticket has an impact either to the team that has to respond or to the end user experiencing that issue. And there's a cost associated with that, right? So if it's a business impact like your customers, that can easily measure in the billions of dollars over the course of a year for a large enterprise. And just within the time spent in IT to troubleshoot these issues, it can be hundreds of thousands of hours a year. Again, a large enterprise network might have 300 engineers troubleshooting most of the day, every day, these 1,000+ tickets. So our fundamental belief here is that this is a problem that requires automation. The scale has come to the point that automation is the only viable solution. And today, that's why we're talking about automation for ticket resolution. So I'll open it up with a poll. For your organization, I'm sure people on the call are spanning large enterprise networks to smaller networks. I'm curious, how many IT tickets are generated every day? So I'll give this a minute to find out. And I think everybody's seeing this live as it's happening, if I understand correctly. So I'm seeing, some portion of you have most likely smaller infrastructures. Maybe you're not in the network team, or maybe you're in the other parts of the IT organization. But the overwhelming is basically tens of tickets every day. Over half of you are experiencing tens of tickets every day, but still 20% is in the hundreds of tickets every day, between 100 and 1,000. And then still almost about 10% of you over 1,000 tickets a day, right? So these are the world's largest enterprises. So particularly for those bottom two groups, there's 30% of you experiencing over 100 tickets every day. Automation is mission critical, I would say. But even if you're experiencing tens of tickets a day, that's very, very important as well. So thank you for submitting those answers. So today, in order to talk about how we're going to apply automation to ticket resolution, let's look at what is happening when teams are sort of responding to a ticket, where they're trying to solve a problem. What does a manual diagnosis look like? And really, it's kind of about, we call this hypothesis-based troubleshooting. It's you have a hunch about what could be wrong based on your experience, perhaps. And now the job is to find out, is it that thing, right? Is it a failover? Is it a BGP issue? Maybe there's a policy error on the QoS. So there's you need to go through a set of exercises to identify that. But you need two fundamental things to answer that question, what's going on. And by the way, the first question is it the network, right? But here we're talking about the network team. Their job is to answer that question, is it the network, right? Meanwhile, the security team is finding out is a security breach. The application team is finding out is an application issue, right? But this is on the network side. So two things that we need to solve the problem is knowledge. And then the second one is data. So you need to diagnose, you need to collect and analyze a lot of data. But first you need to know, you need to have a hypothesis, and that's driven by knowledge or intuition. Two different types of knowledge really for that too is domain knowledge. Within my network infrastructure, what do we have from a routers, switches, firewalls perspective, access points, how are those things connected? How is traffic flowing for any given application across that infrastructure? And then what's normal? So if I'm troubleshooting and I see something that's off, in order to know that it's off, you first have to know what's normal. So that's a baseline. And then the other type of knowledge is, you could call this tribal knowledge. You could carry this kind of knowledge from organization to organization. It's not unique to your network, but it's unique to, you could learn this in Cisco textbooks or certification courses, how to troubleshoot security issues, BGP, virtualization. So there's these two types of knowledge. Then the second category of things that you need when you're troubleshooting is data, lots of it. So topology data, the underlying network configuration, its state or condition. And then you need this data, but you need it in different points in time. You need to know what's happening now. You need to know maybe what was happening when this ticket was created at 2 o'clock in the morning, if it's an intermittent issue in particular. And then you need to know what's normal, right, the baseline. So we sort of look at the challenge to automate troubleshooting is the answer is hidden between these two things, knowledge and data. And so NetBrain's technology is designed to address this, and I'll talk about how. So first is on the knowledge side, the domain knowledge. We have a technology, it's called a dynamic network map. It looks like a network map, looks like a Visio diagram, but it's more than that. It's basically a way to abstract the domain knowledge. So it answers those questions we have. And it answers them in the context of a specific ticket. So for example, if you're troubleshooting some lost connectivity, you might want to map the path between the 2 points that you can't communicate between. Or same thing with a slow application. Maybe it's a web server communicating to a database server, and there's some slowness. You want the map for that particular application, that particular flow in context to answer all the questions about the domain knowledge. But next you need is that tribal knowledge, right? So now you need to start testing your hypotheses. Is it a security issue? Is it a BGP issue? Is there something going on wrong on the SDN infrastructure? And for that, you need a series of how-tos. You need to test those hypotheses by collecting and analyzing data. And so we have a technology there called an executable runbook. A runbook is really just a process which can be sort of documented and shared, and most importantly here, executable, automated. And then we talk about the data side. So at the foundation of the dynamic mapping and the ability to run diagnoses via executable runbook is the ability to collect and analyze data. And so that's the foundation for the NetBrain architecture, which is basically a digital twin of the live network infrastructure. And that digital twin is fueled by live data from the network. You know, networks are largely hybridized and diverse these days, right? So we have to pull different types of network data from different types of network devices, but we effectively build a digital twin of the network. So I think this question might be out of order. I'm going to go ahead and skip it for now. If we have time, I might come back to it. So here we have basically how that works. So the digital twin of the network, how NetBrain is going to build that mathematical model of the network, is basically by pulling data from the live network. And that data comes via the two most important protocols. Network engineers are already pulling data, right? They're already solving problems every day. And we're just talking about applying the same logic that they're using to automation. So what's that logic that they're using? They're using the command line interface to execute things like show commands, to look at interfaces, to understand what's happening at the device level, at the interface level. And they're using sometimes SNMP data to look at the performance and the health of the network as well. And so we need to gather that same data via an automated fashion. And so NetBrain does that by collecting and analyzing information via CLI and SNMP. And then they're also, you know, again, to mimic that troubleshooting workflow, typically there's other tools that are part of that equation. So our customers tell us that about 80% of the time when they're troubleshooting, they're actually using the command line interface. They're logging into the network gear. They're issuing commands. But about 20% of the time, they're also using these other tools, right? They're monitoring tools, their security tools, their ITSM tools, their packet flow tools. So again, a full troubleshooting automation solution needs to address the end-to-end data collection and analysis process that's already happening manually otherwise, right? So that's why NetBrain is also going to integrate with these tools to overlay the data from those tools over that, what we called before, the dynamic map. It becomes the single pane of glass, if you will, to visualize any IT data and not having to pull that data manually. So that's the digital twin concept. So armed with these three technologies, again, the map, the dynamic map, the runbook, which is executable, and then the digital twin of the live network, these can be fed into an automation architecture. And the goal of this automation architecture is to, you know, accelerate the resolution of tickets. Again, imagine 1,000 tickets a day, but even some of you imagine, you know, dozens of tickets a day. The goal is to get from point A here to point B, the root cause, as fast as possible. And fundamentally, the more you can increase the percentage of tickets automated, you can, you know, conversely decrease the mean time to repair, the average time to repair or to resolution. And so there's a number of different automation mechanisms that you can employ to do this. The first is what we call a triggered automation. That's at the time a ticket is created, at that exact instant, to trigger a diagnosis. And therefore, you don't need a human on the scene 24/7 looking at these tickets as soon as they come in, because you can automatically trigger a diagnosis. We'll talk about how that's possible. But then later on, a human will unlikely, you know, no doubt come on the scene, because automation is still not at the maturity where it can solve 100% of the problems, right? Maybe one day. But an engineer will arrive on the scene and they can drive their own automation, but now they're sort of at, you know, behind the steering wheel, if you will, of the automation, leveraging more powerful tools. But some percentage of problems will still always require that manual, traditional, command line-based diagnosis or troubleshooting. So the goal is to sort of look at the percentage of tickets resolved at each step or at each phase, and ultimately the goal is to reduce the number of manual tickets resolved and continuously increase the number of tickets which are solved via automation. And so that's a journey to get there. And so in today's presentation, I want to talk a little bit about what that journey looks like. And so fundamentally, we know that few problems are actually truly new. So if a problem exists, you know, at a certain part in the network, it stands to reason that it might exist somewhere else, particularly for these large complex infrastructures. Or it stands to reason that maybe it will come back again. So there's very few things that are new under the sun, right? That's why this tribal knowledge is so valuable. But so then the philosophy that we employ at NetBrain is to to take the knowledge from every troubleshooting event, that root cause from the last problem you solved, and to sort of feed that back as a knowledge enhancement, as something that can be automated the next time a similar problem occurs. And the way this is done is by looking at the postmortem, the thing that everybody gathers around after a problem is solved and asks, can we do better next time? They look at that postmortem as an automation enhancement opportunity. So that is actually the time where the automation is built to satisfy this architecture which I'm describing. So it's not as if the automation and the total complete diagnosis portfolio comes with any one product, but rather a team has to incorporate the knowledge that they've learned into this mechanism and build their automation. And why it's so important that this automation is conducted with no code is because it's the network teams that have to create that automation. Relying on programmers or DevOps teams to build out automation is not a scalable solution. It needs to be sort of democratized, and everyone within the network team needs to be empowered to build that automation based on the knowledge that they have, the network knowledge. So I'm going to use this kind of architecture to dive into the different segments here, how automation works from triggered to interactive to proactive, what we call the proactive automation. And so we'll start with the triggered automation. So what's happening? So what happens at the moment a ticket occurs? You know, we look at a ticket event as an automation trigger, and via some API integration between a diagnostic solution like NetBrain and your ticketing system, maybe it's a ServiceNow or a VMC Remedy or an in-house solution, you know, that ticket creation is the event which triggers the automation. That happens via integrating these two types of systems together. In the case of NetBrain, what's happening is what we described earlier. It's a dynamic mapping of the problem area, and it's an automated execution of a runbook to check for a series of possible known issues, comparing data from the time of the event to a normal snapshot of a normal baseline. And so I have a couple of slides which describe visually what I mean by this. So what happens at triggered automation is ultimately you're enriching every single ticket that occurs via triggered automation. And the philosophy here is that no human should touch a ticket before automation has done its job. And what does it mean to do its job? Well, it means one, embed within the ticket a dynamic map of the problem. This happens to be a map of an application path for a slow application. And two, embed in the ticket a recorded set of diagnostics, the results of the diagnostics in the form of the executable runbook that we talked about earlier. So later, when someone's going to review the ticket, they'll see within that ticket maybe a map for lost connectivity, a different type of map if it's maybe a video issue or a multicast issue, a different type of map for a full application, or if it's a data center outage. And then the second thing that they'll do is they'll see that they can enrich that ticket with all of the rich diagnostic data. So this is an example in the middle of an actual troubleshooting workflow that one of our customers shared with us for one of their very common issues, an interface issue. So they happen to have a standard troubleshooting playbook for diagnosing interface issues, and this is what that looks like. They can, with NetBrain, what they ended up doing was they digitized that playbook into an executable runbook, which could trigger automatically every time a ticket is created with a description having anything to do with interface. And so that's another way that they can enrich that ticket. Here's what that looks like using the example of ServiceNow. I choose ServiceNow because it's becoming one of the most popular ITSMs out there. A lot of our customers are employing it or migrating to ServiceNow, and we do have a NetBrain app in the ServiceNow App Store. So what that does is you can see this is ServiceNow's user interface, but within that user interface is embedded a NetBrain map. And then what is hard to read here, but there's actually a known problem from a previously known incident, which is basically called out automatically. So the idea being when the first engineer to troubleshoot this ticket from the network team arrives, they are automatically armed with a lot of information that's going to jumpstart their diagnosis. So what we have here is we've isolated the problem area. We have a known problem that's been annotated automatically. It's not necessarily the problem, but it's a previously known problem which may or may not be relevant to this particular problem. And so we can sort of imagine, the benefits there of having triggered automation. So now it's off to a human, right? Now it's the first time a human's on the scene, and they have kind of a head start. They're off to the races, rather than spending maybe an hour or two to collect all that information which was presented to them inside the ticket. So going back to like a troubleshooting workflow like this, if an engineer comes and picks up that ticket, maybe they weren't able to find the root cause. Maybe they could only rule out a few possible, causes. You look at, those harder to solve problems. You look at where is the, how can automation help when the root cause is well hidden? Some of that root cause is hidden in the CLI, like we talked about. Other times it might be hidden within data from other tools, like we talked about. But sometimes you just have to have the wisdom to know to check here, or the wisdom to know that something's not right. So next is basically, how does interactive automation help? And there's, Map and Runbook are the heroes again over here, but the data comes from multiple different data sources abstracted onto the map. And this is where network engineers can sort of draw upon the library of knowledge within their organization in the form of these runbooks. And these runbooks can be sort of recommended sort of dynamically through NetBrain as a recommended action based on sort of different conditions, so that it's almost as if a way for a senior engineer to sort of communicate telepathically, if you will, with maybe a more junior engineer who's just responding to a ticket, because that senior engineer's knowledge is already encapsulated in a series of runbooks and made available for a more junior engineer to sort of run through. The goal there would be to reduce the number of escalations that are required. And so this is what that looks like, again, using NetBrain. We don't have time today for a live demo, but within NetBrain, you'd have a map, and all the data available, like we talked about at the beginning, is available on that map. So here's some overall health data, the history of that data, and even a baseline alert, which means something that's not normal. Not necessarily the problem, but maybe the problem, right? It's something that you need to be aware of if you're troubleshooting. It could be the smoking gun. And then embedded in this is a series of recommended actions. So if you were to see some data, so over here we see interface errors are increasing. Based on that condition, there's a set of recommended actions which were previously, another engineer had sort of tagged to this, what we call a data view in the past. And then you can see a lot of information is accessible. So that knowledge and that data sort of encapsulated into one dynamic map, both that domain knowledge of the network, the tribal knowledge based on how to troubleshoot these things, and then the underlying data, all accessible within kind of one pane. So then the last question is, and I have to be a little bit mindful of the time, is kind of how is this automation built? It sounds like a powerful concept, but there's thousands and thousands of possible problems that can occur. And can any one solution actually scale to address all of those? So one of the things we talk about is automation for every ticket, not just the high frequency tickets. And so that comes again through that post-mortem opportunity, seeing the post-mortem as an automation enhancement opportunity. And so what we say is, the last problem that you solve manually is the next automation that you should build, because the next time a similar problem occurs, automation should sort of be there waiting for it. And in order to make that possible, it has to be done in a very no-code, or at the most extreme, a low-code way. It has to be very NetOps friendly. The network engineers have to be able to build that, and it has to be something that they can write once and that can be leveraged anywhere across the network infrastructure. These are the ways that make automation scale to address every ticket. And then just visually, NetBrain employs the map as the user interface, or as the input and the output for that automation. It makes this automation very, very easy to share across the organization as well. So here we talk a little bit about how to do that. I'll save that for another time, because I think we're a little bit short on time. But basically the idea to build this automation, it uses the command line itself as the very familiar tool, the tool that network engineers already know and are familiar with, and they can leverage the data from the command line to build that into runbooks automatically. And that's done via very much a visual programming and, like I said, a no-code environment. So this is a little bit of what that looks like inside of NetBrain. Basic CLI data converted to what we call a data view, which can be executed within a runbook with just a click. So this is kind of the summary view of NetBrain automation across an automation architecture. That's something that can be scaled to 1,000 tickets a day or even more. And the idea here is, again, it's like a flywheel. The more this sort of automation mechanism runs, sort of the faster it spins, right? And the faster it spins, you're fundamentally and consistently reducing mean time to repair. And that's kind of always been the holy grail, is how do you reduce mean time to repair, where mean is really an average, right? In order to fundamentally impact an average, you have to do something systematically better, like a batting average. You have to systematically, improve over time. And so this is why we think this is the mechanism to deliver on that promise. So there was a poll question a little bit earlier. I'll see if I can get back to it, but maybe we can end on that note if we have time, or I might not be able to. The question was going to be, how are you guys treating the post-mortem process today? Oh, there it is. I'm pulled up. Yeah. What is your post-mortem process today? Is it something that you can see applying automation to as an automation enhancement opportunity?
Yeah, thank you everyone
for
responding to this poll. So we got lots of responses coming in, Jason. It looks like roughly 38% say lessons learned are captured and put into action across the entire organization. 24% at the opposite end of the spectrum there don't have any sort of post-mortem process. And then pretty average in between there. What's your take on that?
I think the 36% are really encapsulating what the postmortem is designed to do. To take the lessons learned and put into action across the entire organization. So that's a mature organization who's constantly looking to improve and do better. So I would say to this group, automation is it's an automation to enhance. But even to the other groups that aren't distilling that across, they can use automation as a mechanism to deliver that knowledge across the organization. So it's interesting to see kind of the disparity here. Thank you guys for sharing. So that's a presentation. I'll open it up for Q&A. I want to point out there's a link on this slide. It might be a little bit hard to read, but there's an opportunity to join an open demo. So as a next step, if you're not ready to talk to somebody, oftentimes people aren't ready to just talk to somebody in sales, but they still want to learn more. We have a concept called an open demo where people can register for one of our multiple times a week our demos, and they can see everything that I described in action. And that's a great way to learn more as well. I want to make sure we share the link for that. So thank you again.
Sure, yeah, thank you. I just shared that link over in the questions box as well. If anyone's looking for that link or if you have trouble clicking on it there in the slide, you can copy and paste the link from the questions box. I just dropped it in. Also, of course, check out the resources available for download in the handouts tab before you go about the NetBrain solution. Jason, really cool stuff that you guys are doing at NetBrain. I mean, when I was a network admin, man, I wish I had a tool like this. This is really cool what you're doing. And I can see now why it's called NetBrain. I mean, it really is like the brains behind the network. The name is perfect. So while we take some questions from the audience, I'm just going to bring up another poll that says, what additional information would you like about the NetBrain solution? And we'll leave that up while we take some questions. There's a question here from Charlie who's asking about integrations. What can he integrate this with? Specifically, he's curious about Manage Engine Service Desk is the ticketing tool that he uses. Any integrations like that available?
So yeah, Manage Engine and Service Desk are two good examples. So we have the ability to integrate with Manage Engine really as I understand, a 24/7 monitoring solution. That's a very common integration category, and then the ITSM is the second. So we have a solutions team that can help build those integrations for you, and it would be a matter of kind of defining how you want tickets to be integrated, how you want your ITSM to trigger, what kind of automation you want to trigger, or even at just the most basic level, you can just embed maps within your ITSM, via copy and paste as well. And then the Manage Engine is another very popular integration that we hear about as well. So I would say, I'm not sure if that was a question from an existing customer. If so, you could reach out to your, basically your solutions engineer, or if it's someone who's just interested in NetBrain, that could be something that can talk to on the pre-sales engineering side as well.
Excellent. And then speaking of integrations, there's a question around how does NetBrain specifically collect the data from different vendors, hardware that's out there in the network?
Yeah, so that's a good question because I had to cover that very quickly too. I talked about the data model of the network. NetBrain collects information from, the legacy networks. Still 99% of networking devices out there are just traditional network devices, routers, switches, firewalls. So NetBrain leverages the SSH, basically CLI, to collect and analyze data from those. So it has to understand, is it a Cisco device? Is it a Juniper device? Is it a Palo Alto firewall? it can associate with all of those and then know how to talk to them. But for modern infrastructures, SDN, NetBrain collects information via the SDN controller, via API, or cloud infrastructures, there's API interfaces to those as well. So one way sometimes we describe NetBrain is like the operating system for the total network, and it provides the ability to collect and analyze data and put it all into one place, and then map across the network infrastructure as if it's a system. So you have to be able to speak different languages to different types of infrastructures. And NetBrain's been around for 15 years, so going back to the network devices, 10 more years ago, we can talk to those as well.
Excellent. And then next question here is about, all right, let's look for a moment. Okay, here, they're asking, so you said, no code, but exactly what sort of skills or training or, what's the process we would go through to build an automation using NetBrain?
Yeah, so that's a good question too, because fundamentally at the core of it, I was at Cisco Live last year and I saw Chuck Robbins introduced a new certification for, I forget if they'd call it like a DevOps certification, but it's trying to bridge the gap between network teams who know networks but don't know coding, but then need network automation, right? So Cisco's trying to address this with training. NetBrain, we're trying to address this massive challenge with tooling. So we provide kind of an abstraction layer translating basically CLI language, command line interface language, to something that becomes executable. So the goal of NetBrain is to make it so no training, except for some basic product training over the course of a day or two in NetBrain, but otherwise no sort of scripting or programming training is required for a network engineer to create this automation. And really that doesn't mean there's no logic, right? The same logic that they use to troubleshoot, what kind of data to collect, what conditions you're looking for, that's important, but the syntax around that, we abstract all of that away using sort of a CLI GUI type of interface.
Very nice. I like that. Sounds much easier. I like a much better approach there. Next question. With a lot of companies moving to more software-defined networking and maybe cloud networking, can NetBrain interface with those types of more virtual network devices as well?
Yes. Yeah. So most popular within our customer base is within the SDN side. It's like ACI or VMware NSX to a slightly lesser degree. And NetBrain has solutions and capabilities to connect to those infrastructures. On the cloud side, most popular is AWS and Azure, but we'll be coming out with Google Cloud support as well. And then certainly there's a SD-WAN side as well, Viptel and VeloCloud. So NetBrain, again, the goal is to be able to pull all of these types of network technologies together. So we have solutions that talk to all of them.
Excellent. And with NetBrain having kind of this picture of the network, is it possible for it to be used essentially as a change management tool and tell us when things have happened or changes have happened in the network?
Yeah, so we do have a change management module. So everything I described today is kind of our core platform, and it's really a lot of read-only diagnostic pull type information, providing data analytics that they engineer. But what I didn't talk about today is a separate module that we have called our change management module, where network teams can basically, again, leverage automation, but now to push changes out to the network in bulk. So we have the ability to do that, and also to raise alerts on when there are changes that are happening. So yes, we have that capability separately. Very
nice. Very nice. Well, really cool solution. I know it could help a lot of companies out there to resolve or reduce their mean time to resolution. Jason, it's been great having you on the event today. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, and thank you to everybody that was watching. Have a good day, guys.
Thank you to NetBrain for supporting today's event. Make sure you check out the link. It's on the screen there to join the open demo and also the NetBrain solution brief that's available for download there in the handouts tab. It would be really cool to see the NetBrain solution in action in that demo. I'm going to have to check that out for myself. Excellent. All right. And with that, it's time for our next prize winner. We have an Amazon $500 gift card going to Wayne Ajimine from Hawaii. Congratulations. Wayne Ajimine from Hawaii. Very cool. Congratulations to all the gift card winners. Before you go, I want to remind you to subscribe to the 10 on Tech podcast in the iTunes store. If you are a potential sponsor of an upcoming MegaCast or EcoCast event, reach out to us at connect@actualtechmedia.com to chat about presenting on one of our events. And finally, I hope that you'll join me on our next event, which is a panelcast event. This is a video discussion live happening next week, and we'll be talking about the current trends in public, private, hybrid, and multi-cloud computing with Nutanix, SolarWinds, and Zerto. Hope to see you there on the panelcast. I also hope that you learned a lot on today's Security and Networking EcoCast event. Really thankful that you joined us. I hope that you take away from this some good tips for up-leveling your security and networking capabilities. We'll see you next time. Have a great day.